Imagine opening a drawer on a chest that's 180 years old. It slides out without effort. No creak, no sticking. The corners are perfect. And underneath, there isn't a single nail. That's what I found in a house near Millersburg, Ohio, the first summer I spent time with Amish families. I stood in front of that piece of furniture for a long time. Not because it was beautiful, though it was, but because I had just thrown away a dresser I bought from a modern furniture store only 8 years earlier. What those carpenters know about wood and what nobody ever taught you is what changes everything. Today I'm going to show you the 5 techniques that make Amish wood last 200 years, not 20. And before the end of this video, I'm going to reveal the finale technique, the one I found in a carpentry document from 1897 that modern furniture manufacturers would very much prefer you never hear about. The first thing you need to understand is that the wood and furniture you buy at any large chain store is already sick before it arrives at your house, and I'm not exaggerating. When modern industry cuts a tree, it wants the wood ready in weeks, so they force it into industrial ovens called kilns, where it gets dried with artificial heat for 14 to 21 days. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? The problem is that forced drying creates what carpenters call internal stress. The outside of the wood dries faster than the center. It's like taking a frozen piece of meat and putting it directly over maximum heat. On the outside, it looks cooked. On the inside, it's still raw. Except with wood, you don't see that imbalance until 2 or 3 years later, when the furniture starts to warp, split open, and break from within. The Amish don't do that. They air dry their wood outdoors for months, sometimes years. A 3-centimeter oak plank needs a full year of natural drying before an Amish carpenter will lay a hand on it. The rule the old masters taught their sons was simple: 1 year of drying for every inch of thickness. Patience. That costs them nothing in money. It costs them time. And modern industry has no time, because time cannot be sold. The result? Amish wood has a moisture content between 8 and 12% when it's used for building. Factory furniture wood often arrives at 20% or higher. That gap between 8 and 20% is exactly why your brand new furniture warps during the first winter with the heat on. It isn't bad luck. It's the system doing precisely what benefits them, getting you to buy again. And since we're on the first technique, there's something that anyone watching who already has old furniture at home needs to hear right now. If you have an antique piece, solid wood, that has been in your home for decades, that piece already won the drying battle. It's already stable. All it needs is for you to take care of it properly. And I'm going to explain exactly how before the end of this video. Most people have spent their whole lives buying particle board and veneer furniture, not because they were careless, but because manufacturers made sure they never knew anything different existed. They call it wood, they give it elegant names. But it isn't wood, it's compressed cardboard with cheap glue covered in a photo of wood printed on paper, and it has a useful life of 5 to 10 years at most. Right now, I want you to hold on to a question as we move through this video. How many pieces of furniture have you thrown away in your life that, if you had built them with these techniques, would still be in your home today? I'm going to give you the exact number I came up with when I did that calculation myself before the end of this section. Let's talk about the second technique, and this is the one that hit me hardest the first time I saw it. In Amish workshops in Lancaster County, you won't find a single metal nail in any piece of furniture, not one. Amish carpenters join wood using joints called mortise and tenon, dovetails, and tongue and groove. And the obvious question is, why? Isn't it just easier to use screws? Look at what happens when you nail metal into wood. Wood is a living material. It expands when there's humidity. It contracts when there's dryness. With the climate swings between day and night in Phoenix, or the dry winter heat of Denver, or the humid summer air along the Gulf Coast, that wood is moving constantly, millimeter by millimeter, every day of the year. The metal screw doesn't move with it, it's rigid. So what happens? The wood breaks around the screw. Within 5 years, that joint has play in it. Within 10 years, it's failed. The screw you were going to use to make the furniture stronger is exactly what's destroying it from the inside. Amish joints work in a completely different way. The mortise and tenon joint, which has over 3,000 years of documented history, works like this. One piece of wood has a carved hole, the mortise. The other piece has a carved protrusion of the exact same size, the tenon. When you fit them together, there is perfect friction, no gap. And when the carpenter uses animal hide glue, which is the glue Amish craftsmen still use today, that joint becomes stronger than the wood itself. You can break the wood, the joint won't break. There's more. Amish carpenters use a technique called draw boring. When they drill the holes for the tenon and the wooden peg that locks it, they drill them slightly misaligned a millimeter or two. When they insert the wooden peg to fix the joint, that small offset acts like a natural wedge that tensions the joint from within. No tools, no screws, just the perfect geometry of wood working in your favor. Modern furniture manufacturers could use these techniques. It wouldn't cost them more in materials, it would cost them learning time. And furniture that lasts 200 years doesn't create customers who come back to buy again. You are the customer who stops buying. That is exactly what doesn't work for them. Now, before the next technique, I need to tell you something about the glue the Amish use. Because this is directly connected to a question I get asked often, can you fix an old piece of furniture with loose joints yourself without taking it to a carpenter who's going to charge you $300? The answer is yes, and it's simpler than you think. I'll explain it in the fourth technique. The third technique is about something you've probably never thought about: wood selection. And this is where the Amish do something that goes completely against the logic of mass production. In a modern furniture factory, wood arrives as generic material. An oak plank is an oak plank. It gets used wherever it's needed. The result is that many pieces of furniture have parts with straight grain sitting next to parts with cross grain, and that is a time bomb, because wood with different grain patterns moves in different directions when humidity changes. Amish carpenters do exactly the opposite. They inspect every single plank individually before using it. They read the grain like a map. A plank that's going to be a table leg needs a straight, dense grain that resists compression. A plank that's going to be a tabletop needs a grain that can expand sideways without splitting the piece. For drawers, Amish craftsmen use poplar or cedar, not oak, because those lighter woods move less and slide more smoothly. And there's something else they do that is completely free for you if you ever work with wood. Amish craftsmen always orient the grain of tabletops in the same direction. If the grain runs east to west in every board of a tabletop, all those boards will expand in the same direction at the same time, no contradictory tensions. The top stays flat for decades afterward. A modern piece of furniture from one of those large catalog furniture chains might cost you $400 or $500. It lasts 8 years if you're lucky. That's $50 or $60 a year. A piece of solid local oak worked with these techniques might cost you $100 in materials and a weekend of work, and it lasts 150 years. Do the math yourself. Their business depends on you never doing that math. If you're watching right now and you have furniture in your home that's more than 30 years old, solid wood furniture, and you're thinking this only applies to new pieces, stay with me, because the next technique is specifically for you, for the piece you already own. How many pieces of furniture have I calculated that I threw away in my lifetime pieces that with these techniques would still be standing in my home? 7. 7 pieces of furniture that passed through my hands in 40 years. If the average price was $300 each, that's $2,100 that the disposable furniture industry took out of my pocket. And that number probably sounds familiar to you. The fourth technique is called the live glue rule, and it's the one that lets you restore any antique piece of furniture yourself, at home, this weekend, with no special tools. When an Amish piece of furniture has a loose joint, what the carpenter does is not replace it. He takes it apart, cleans it, and rejoins it. And here is the secret that the industrial adhesive companies don't want you to know. Animal hide glue, also called flake glue or hide glue, which you can buy for less than $10 at any hardware store or online, is the only glue that is reversible. If you apply warm water to it, the joint releases cleanly. You can disassemble it, clean it, and rejoin it. Modern synthetic glues, Titebond, Gorilla Glue, polyurethane adhesive, create permanent bonds that cannot be taken apart. When that joint fails, you can't repair it. You have to throw the piece away. The Amish have used animal hide glue continuously since the 18th century, not because they're behind the times, but because they understood something that modern glue manufacturers don't want you to understand. The piece of furniture you can repair is the piece of furniture you never have to replace. If you have a chair or a table with a loose joint at home right now, this is what you do. First, get animal hide glue in flake form. Second, prepare it by dissolving the flakes in cold water for 1 hour, then heating it in a double boiler until it dissolves completely, never above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Third, apply the warm glue to the clean joint, press it together, and hold it for 24 hours. That is the complete instruction. It costs $10. And that piece of furniture will not fail again in your lifetime. But the finale technique, the one I've been mentioning since the beginning of this video, a method the Amish have never stopped using, I'm saving for the end. I already told you I found it in a document from 1897. Now I'm going to tell you exactly which document. It's a wood finishing guide published by the Pennsylvania Ebonist Craftsmen's Association that year. A guide that stayed in circulation until 1974 when it was pulled from lumber supply catalogs because manufacturers of modern synthetic varnishes began to dominate the market. A liquid that costs less than a cup of coffee and that you probably already have at home. First, the fifth technique, because what makes the finale possible is something you need to understand. The fifth technique is the one that confuses people most when they first hear it, because it goes against everything you've been taught about how to protect furniture. In any hardware store, in any home improvement warehouse, the person helping you is going to recommend polyurethane varnish. They'll tell you it's the hardest, the most resistant, the best protection for wood, and they're right about one thing: it is very hard. The problem is that hardness is exactly the enemy of wood that, as we already know, moves, breathes, expands, and contracts. A polyurethane finish seals the wood like plastic. The wood can't breathe. Over time, that seal cracks in the places where the wood has moved. And when it cracks, water gets in through the cracks and becomes trapped underneath the varnish. It can't get back out. That is guaranteed rot. The Amish have never used polyurethane. They have never used any synthetic finish. They have always used boiled linseed oil mixed with beeswax. And now I'll explain why that is exactly right, not from tradition, but from chemistry. Boiled linseed oil, which costs about $4 a quart at any hardware store, penetrates into the wood fibers. It doesn't form a film on the surface. It goes inside. When it polymerizes with oxygen from the air, it reinforces the wood fibers themselves from within. The wood can still move. The oil moves with it. No seals to crack, no water traps. The beeswax acts as the second layer, the surface layer. It protects against dust, against surface moisture, against minor scratches. And when it wears away over time, it doesn't do so catastrophically the way synthetic varnish peels off in sheets. It wears gently and evenly. You can simply apply a new layer of beeswax with a rag. No sanding, no stripping, no preparation, 5 minutes, $1 in materials, and the piece looks brand new. Boiled linseed oil costs about $4 a quart. Natural beeswax costs about $6 for a small tin. That is enough to treat an entire piece of furniture, $10 total. Versus a can of polyurethane varnish that costs between $20 and $30, requires 3 coats with sanding in between, and in 7 or 8 years, you're going to have to strip it completely, or the piece looks worse than untreated. $4 for the linseed oil, $10 total for the full treatment. Keep that number in mind, because the next time someone in a hardware store recommends a $40 product to protect your wood, you'll know exactly where that recommendation is coming from. And now we arrive at the finale, what I found in that 1897 guide from the Pennsylvania Ebonist Craftsmen's Association. The document describes a mixture that Amish master carpenters and woodworkers in the northeastern United States used as a first-hand sealer before applying the linseed oil. A mixture that, according to the document, was known among craftsmen from at least the 1840s, and that was progressively forgotten as synthetic products filled hardware store shelves after World War II. The mixture is this: 1 part raw linseed oil raw, not boiled, raw plus 1 part pure white vinegar, plus 1 part avocado oil or walnut oil if you have it available. Shake well until emulsified. Apply that mixture to clean, dry wood with a rag, following the grain, and let it penetrate for 4 hours before wiping off the excess. That first coat is what 19th century craftsmen called the living seal, because unlike synthetic sealers, it doesn't block the wood's pores, it fills them. The wood stays hydrated from within, with a natural antimicrobial barrier that comes from the acetic acid in the vinegar, and nourished with the fatty acids from the oil that reinforce the cell walls of the fiber. White vinegar. You have it in your kitchen right now. Raw linseed oil, $4 at the hardware store. Avocado oil or walnut oil, you have it at the grocery store. Total cost of the mixture, under $6. And according to that 1897 document, craftsmen who used it reported that wood treated with it resisted moisture, insects, and thermal movement better than any other treatment known at the time. $4. $4 for the raw linseed oil, $6 total for the full mixture. Hold on to that number, because the next time someone recommends a $40 wood treatment product, you'll know exactly who benefits from that recommendation. What the Amish have known all this time is something very simple. Wood is not a dead material. It isn't plastic or metal. It is a living material that breathes, that moves, that has memory. When you work with it in a way that respects that nature, it gives you 200 years. When you force it, it gives you 8. For decades, you bought furniture that lasted less than it should have. Not because you were careless, but because the system, the manufacturer, the synthetic varnish seller, the particle board maker, the screw supplier, made sure this information never reached you. Now you have it. If you're the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside for decades to keep someone else's profits intact, you already know what to do with this video. What's the oldest piece of solid wood furniture in your home right now? Just write the number of years in the comments below. One number. That's all I'm asking. And if you want to see what happens to Amish furniture left outdoors for decades in barns and porches exposed to rain, snow, and direct sun, with no maintenance at all, still standing after 120 years, that video is right here. What I found in those barns in Holmes County is just as surprising as what you heard today.